Well, what's up again, guys? Brian here at 3TR. Welcome to the next episode of These People's Questions. We got a pretty extensive episode, and we even seem to have had a little bit of a discussion war in the comments section, which took up quite a lot of space. But that shouldn't stop us from having a pretty damn good time here. So, starting off real simple, the first question coming from, I believe, one of the first newbies of the episode, going by the name of The Black Struggle, like your name. And you want to know, if I was able to change anything in the Star Wars lore, what would it be? Personally, I would make these new movies non-canon, and I would just go back to making the old EU official canon, because that is clearly superior to anything we're about to get from these new films. Because I just want to state right now, I am not a fan of Disney's Star Wars. It is clear they want to reboot this whole thing, but they can't do it officially, so they're trying to do it subtly, and it's not very subtle at all. So personally, I would just say these new movies are non-canon and are like just Legends continuity, and I would go back to making the EU official canon. Next question comes from The Immortal Being, and you want to know, who do I think would win this match? Dante and Virgil versus Darth Krayt and Vader. Darth Krayt and Vader, oh, come on. I mean, it's powerful. I mean, between those two, the only one you would really have to worry about is Virgil. Dante would be pretty easy to contain. He's pretty much just a straightforward brawler. His pistol guns aren't going to really work, and he's very limited with the use of his devil trigger, which he doesn't even like using very often. When you have someone as powerful as Darth Krayt, I mean, dear God, there's like, the only person I think could really go toe-to-toe to him in terms of power. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was taken out by a Skywalker. It was probably Grandmaster Luke in a head-to-head contest. I mean, if you've actually read the story of how Darth Krayt goes down, it's pretty interesting. But I think that the abilities with the Force are so much more flexible. I mean, even Virgil with his powers, they do have some limitations that I think Darth Krayt and Vader would be able to work around. But with the Force, they have just so many options at their disposal. I think that would definitely be a little bit too much for Dante and Virgil. The next question comes from Diadrive CJ, and you want to know, if I could master 6 languages fluently and beyond, and master 4 martial arts styles, what would they be? Well, that's a weird one. I guess 6 languages? 6 seems a little... Honestly, I don't think I'd have any use for 6 languages. I mean, if there were 3 languages I would like to be able to speak fluently, it would probably be Japanese, French, and Italian. Those are probably the 3 languages I genuinely have serious interest in learning. But in terms of martial arts, well, my uncle was a teacher in karate, but he wouldn't be, I don't think he'd be able to teach me the things I'd want. So, I don't know, personally, I would love to learn how to do CQC, because I'm a big Metal Gear Solid fan, and that is a legitimate fighting style that they teach in some military forces. So, outside of those few options, that's really all I would really have any real fascination or interest in. Next question comes from Goku-san. You want to know, do I know the show called, I'm not sure if it's pronounced Ruby, because it's spelled like RWBY, and do I like it? Honestly, I've never heard of it, so I'm not sure if that's how it sounds, but no, I can't really like a show I've never heard. The next question comes from Cyborg 136, and you want to know Alex Mercer versus Albert Wesker, who would win? And actually another viewer actually answered that question. But I might have to agree. I don't really think Albert Wesker would be able to take down Alex Mercer. He has so many weapons at his disposal, and the guy can absorb people. That's kind of a really difficult ability to avoid, unless you can do it yourself, which Wesker can't. I mean, even with his incredible speed and incredible strength, he is somewhat limited to super beings that have much more, say, exotic powers, and I just don't think Wesker fits that category. Next question comes from Matthew Vader. You want to know, if I were to create my own villain, which of these 4 would I pick despite one of them being dead for quite some time? but let's just say he wasn't. Tim Curry, Christopher Lee, Ian McDiarmid, or Patrick Stewart. Who would I pick for a villain? Probably Christopher Lee. I would probably pick him because I think what I get out of him, I don't get out of Tim Curry, Ian McDiarmid, or Patrick Stewart, is they have this coldness to them. I mean, I would say Christopher Lee's portrayal of Count Dooku is very, very impressive, because this guy gives off the impression that he is very calculating but very cold. He can be threatening but somewhat charming. Count Dooku has this sort of presence where this is someone who has based his life off of a sort of elegancy, but is at no point afraid of being deadly. And that is something that I think demands respect. This is someone who doesn't mind killing people and doing hard things, but he has class. Some people just do it just to do it, but he actually has a reason, and he wants to make sure you know that before you die. So I would probably pick Christopher Lee if I were to create a new villain. Next question comes from Jalen Bradford. He wants to know, if MacGrath is evil and in Star Wars, do I think that he would be strong enough to take on Darth Vader and Darth Sidious working together? No, sorry. Here's the problem with MacGrath. MacGrath, even if he were evil, I'm guessing he doesn't have the beast power, so he would be in his base form. So all he has at his disposal are electrokinesis, pyrokinesis, and that's really about it. Okay, number one, his lightning, as powerful as it is, I don't think it would match Sidious. And the trick you have to worry about is their telekinesis. The ability to affect Cole's mind. That's something that he has no defense against. He's never had to encounter someone that can actively attack his mind. You don't have to attack someone's body when you're using the Force. You can simply attack their mind. And Sidious and Vader are notorious for doing this. They torture Jedi by breaking apart their mind all the time. And as powerful as MacGrath is, it can be somewhat contained to a degree. So yeah, I don't think MacGrath, I mean, I certainly think he could present a threat to them, but if they're working together, there's almost no one who could take them both down at the same time. That would just be almost impossible. There's only like maybe a few characters in Star Wars that I think could pull that off. Next question comes from Scarpino. You want to know, in my opinion, who is the weakest Final Fantasy villain, strength-wise? Oh, this was funny. Okay. In my opinion, the weakest, say, boss or villain that I've encountered was actually in Final Fantasy VIII, and it was actually the President. And the reason that fight is he's so weak is because you don't even have to attack him. He's a zombie, so you can just beat him with like 2 Phoenix Downs, and he's a boss. So a boss you can take down without even having to attack him directly is just shockingly weak. So I would say the President from Final Fantasy VIII. The next question comes from Matt Cruz, who wants to know, who is my least favorite member of the Cobras from Metal Gear Solid 3? Least favorite? Let's see. Least favorite. I might have to go with the Pain. I mean, I like the Fear. The Fear is very interesting with how he operates. The End is really an interesting sniper, being the father of sniping. The Fury is just cool to look at, and obviously the Joy is my favorite, and the Sorrow, and they stand in a class of their own. But the Pain just doesn't seem to really. He doesn't seem to impress me much. I mean, his whole use of Hornets can be a scary thing, but how you take him out is actually pretty straightforward and simple. So I'm not really all that impressed with the Pain. Next question comes from JDS4696. He wants to know, am I going to watch the animated movie Batman and Harley Quinn? I don't know. After what happened with the last Batman animated movie, I'm still in shock. And apparently there's a scene where Harley Quinn kind of rapes Nightwing, I'm not really a big fan of that. So I'm like, I don't think I need to see it. I mean, as much of a Batman fan as I am, I'm not really a fan of these type of Batman films that do that kind of thing. I mean, as much as the concept of Batman and forcing Harley to team up with them to take down Poison Ivy, it's something I might check out one day, but I'm in no rush to see it. Next question comes from Dmitry Pufer. You want to know, if Resident Evil 4 Leon was in any Dead Space game, how would you think he would do? Depends. Is he using Dead Space weapons or is he using his own weapons? Personally, I'm not sure he'd do too well, because fighting zombies is one thing, fighting necromorphs is another. When you fight necromorphs, you have to use a completely different approach to combat, which would be something that I don't think Leon would pick up fast enough. Because you don't kill necromorphs by shooting them in the body as someone like Leon would be trained to do. You have to shoot off the limbs. And that's something that Isaac Clarke was able to pick up very, very well, because he's not a soldier. He's an engineer, and so he will be used to using these like cutting tools to cut off the limbs. I'm not sure Leon would pick that up in time. If he did, then I think he'd perform pretty well, but then you have to worry about being able to operate in space. And for someone like Leon, who's very ground-based, having to work in zero-gravity environments might be a little bit much for him. The next question comes from Hugo Blood and 881. You want to know, if I watch Star Wars Clone Wars show, do I think the character Ahsoka Tano is a... Wait a second. If you watch Star Wars Clone Wars show, which I did, what do I think of the character Ahsoka Tano as a character and as a fighter? Well, as a character, I think she makes the most character development out of any character. And as a fighter, she really does come into her own. So, I mean, it's kind of sad how she ends up leaving the Order. But I think that in both departments, I think she certainly shows the most improvement of any character. I'd say characters like Anakin and Obi-Wan are pretty much well established and stay pretty consistent. They do have some amounts of growth. There's definitely a good amount of depth that we get to learn about them as characters. But I think that no one really goes through more of an arc than Ahsoka Tano, which is probably what makes her one of the most popular characters from that show, which is why people were, including myself, were happy to see her when she came back in Rebels, even though we don't really know her final fate, unless I think they're about to do like a book or two about her. And the next question comes from Abel, and you want to know, what are my thoughts on YouTube's new update policy where they can place videos and channels in limited status by disabling comments or moving the like button being taken down out of search algorithms, even when the channel and videos don't violate YouTube community guidelines? Well, I think it's bullshit. I mean, as a YouTube creator, shit like this can ruin channels. I recently had a situation, which apparently this is popping up on many channels, including like much smaller ones and even bigger channels, where they have this thing pop up where it says that it's not suitable for advertisers. Now, I've not been hit too hard by it, but I have been hit by it, but I know that some other channels have been getting hit by it big time. And I wonder who is actually running YouTube, because I think that maybe because they deal with so many videos and so many channels, they don't have time to hire individuals and humans to actually look over this. So they built these stupid algorithms in order to just basically view everybody as a criminal, and that's just horrible. I mean, YouTube's gone through these phases where they do stuff that just pisses YouTube creators off, including myself. So hopefully they get their shit together and get this stuff fixed, because it really can affect somebody. Especially those whose lifestyle and life status is based off YouTube channels. There are plenty of us that are like that. I mean, I'm not like that, but I know there are people out there that are. And let's see, I think there's like one more question, I believe. Let me just check. Yeah, one last question. Coming from Gene Lass, and you want to know, do I think Mortal Kombat is better than Tekken? Hell yes it is! Mortal Kombat is better than Street Fighter, and I don't think anyone who's a fan of fighting games can deny that when it comes to the top two best fighting games, it's Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. I mean, sure, you got Dead or Alive, you got Tekken, you got King of Fighters. I mean, you've got all these different fighting series, and they're all good in their own right. But the two kings of fighting games for possibly the last 20 years has always been Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. Now, I openly acknowledge that probably Street Fighter is a lot more marketable and popular, but in my opinion, I've always been a Mortal Kombat person, by far. I think it definitely has the much more interesting fighting system. I think it definitely has a better set of characters. I think it tells a much more better and consistent story with a lot more depth. But I openly acknowledge that Street Fighter is a worthy competitor. I think the world would explode if they announced that they would be doing a crossover between those two, but obviously I don't think that day would ever come. So in terms of comparing Mortal Kombat to Tekken, of course Mortal Kombat is better. But I do respect those who do enjoy the Tekken series because that series has been around for quite a while. And with that, those are the questions you guys set up for this episode. I'd like to thank all of you guys for making this episode possible. If you guys have any more questions you would like me to answer in next week's episode, be sure to type them in the comments down below. But make sure you get the interview before next Wednesday before I start filming the next episode. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next time.